And the last time we had the Kenya Forest, Karura Forest, Friends of Karura Association here, they took us through, there's a law that was established, and there was a trial association that was set up in Karura to be like the one that we are showing is going to be a best case and case study to be replicated across the country, where you involve the community in co-managing the forest with the entity that is mandated in law to manage the forest, the Kenya Forest Service. Then there have been issues around the Kenya Forest Service and the Friends of Karura Forest Association, and who plays what role, and so on and so forth. We've been seeing the Friends of Karura on social media and releasing statements talking about what's going on in the forest and saying that they have not even been consulted. So we decided, let's bring them here, and so they can consult us.
They can consult us,
as stakeholders as well.
Right.
And Professor Karanja Njoroge is a board member of the Friends of Karura Forest Association. He's our guest for the next hour. Good morning, Prof.
Good morning, Latif, and team here.
Good to have you
Nice
back.
to be back here.
Yep.
Karibu
Karibu,
sana.
welcome back.
Janet is going to give you the day's quote. You know what happens.
Oh, yes.
So you'll hear the quote, and let's see how it reflects with you.
Octavia Butler, she was an American science fiction and speculative fiction writer from way back. She was born in 1947. Yes?
Hi, Jenna. I'm so sorry.
Eh?
No, I just realized.
Yes.
I was thinking when you read the quote in the first hour, and I was like, love her. I was thinking of Octavia Spencer.
The actress.
you
It's
think of
okay,
Spencer.
we'll find a quote from her.
Sorry.
It's all right.
Okay, but go on.
She once said, all that you touch, you change. All that you change, changes you.
Absolutely wonderful quote. Every person on planet Earth has a learning curve associated with whatever they engage in, they touch. And that which they change has a change on them.
Right.
Absolutely. So imagine, for me, that quote reminds me of being forced, sort of, because I was too young, in my primary school days, to go plant trees. And over time, because this was every year there would be a tree planting exercise in our forest station. I lived in a forest station. My father works a forest worker. And that I didn't know until much later that it actually touched me. Yeah, because what I'm doing now is that telling people, please plant trees, create, protect your forests, engage with the nature and support nature. So it's true. Yeah.
I think you listened to the calling, because from what you're saying, you were very much meant for this, for exactly what you're doing right now. If you grew up, your father was a forest ranger?
No. He was actually a cook for the forest.
For the forest. No, but he worked for the forest service. Amazing.
Yeah.
And then in school, again, you're being told every year, plant a tree, plant a tree.
Yeah.
So these forests, they've been calling you. They've been calling you. They've been calling you.
So it didn't matter what I studied.
Right. You are going to find your way.
At the University of Nairobi, I was in Bachelor of Commerce. I went on to do MBA and continued with things that didn't. But I brought them back to conservation. Yeah.
Lovely. Okay.
Last time you were here, Prof, was at that point when there was a bit of a to and fro on the management of Karura.
Yeah.
With the Kenya Forest Service and the Karura Friends of Karura Forest Association having a tiff. When he hosted you the following day, we actually hosted the Conservator of Forests.
Yes.
And he came here and explained, look, this is an issue that is not as big as they're making it sound. It's an issue that we've discussed over time, and we are co-managing the forests. Fast forward to earlier this year when we saw footage coming out of Karura that there's some area that's being cleared. And then we hosted the Cabinet Secretary 2 weeks ago. And she explained that what is happening here is we are creating some larger tree nursery inside Karura, about 3 acres, right? Mariam, you asked, and she said 3 acres. And also in that space, we are bringing in NYS officers who will live here and tend to these tree seedlings and help with distribution of the seedlings.
That's a true story
It's
of
true,
what
eh?
is happening. However, you do not do good things in your house without telling your wife or your partner. When you are in a partnership, you work together. There are many ways of raising seedlings. You don't have to cut living tall trees to grow seedlings. In fact, we don't even have to use as much land as they are saying to grow 2 million seedlings. And it's for lack of seeking our concurrency as partners that brought this problem. We have no other problem. You didn't bring the thing to the table. Why do we have a joint forest management committee meeting every month? If it's not for you to bring your concerns, your interests, your whatever to the table, we discuss it, we agree on the way forward. That's
where the bone of contention is.
Absolutely.
So either way, even if they brought this to the table,
we would not have accepted.
Can imagine
the going into the forest. Let me also try to explain to our viewers and listeners. Karura Forest in 1998 almost went to developers, saved by one Wangari Maathai. And after that, fear of even entering the forest. Why that fear? Created by the state, that it's a no-go zone, it's a terrible place, dead bodies were found there, whoever took the dead bodies there. And it's true, because when we came in, we collect at least 2 bodies before we fenced the forest. Okay? So even women were quietening their children by telling them, hey, stop crying, otherwise take you to Karura. So Karura became a bad name. Fast forward that to 2010, the new Forest Conservation Act has come into place thanks to Professor Wangari Maathai, an assistant minister at that time in 2005, and people like Kalonzo Musyoka and others who really supported the creation of this law, which allowed the communities surrounding the forest to create what we call community forest associations. They are all over Kenya. And they do a great work. However, their relationship with KFS is always tenuous because of poor management of that relationship. In our case, we can say that we have had very good relationships with KFS, but on this matter, they decided to do it alone. And there is no need of creating a jewel and then allowing people to throw dirt on it. Our effort is a volunteer effort. Their effort is paid effort by a taxpayer. Now, who do you believe in Kenya? If you are confronted with a person who has volunteered their life, from 2010 until now, I am a volunteer there. And there are many other younger people, just like you, who are joining us. How do you feel using volunteers' time and whatever you decide, it's thrown off the table? Okay. That's the pain that we went through. But I want to say that given the situation and the statements of the CS, we felt that we needed to talk to someone who would just bring sense to our relationship. And we approached the ministry once again and told them we want to talk to someone who can see sense in what we are doing. And we even went a little higher up and we asked for help. And yesterday, we met with a secretary from the ministry and KFS were there, we were there, and the results of our conversation and really warmed our hearts because they confirmed that what we were asking is not illegal, it is not whatever, that what we are asking for is
Oh,
something
legit.
that should be done.
We'll get into the what you are asking, but just to set the scene, you've said you've had a good relationship with KFS. Has it really been a good relationship?
Yes, before this, we were doing wonderful things with them.
But the last time we hosted you, it was because...
No, I'm saying,
Yes.
Please, before these problems started, we have had a very good relationship with KFS. Like I said, we started in 2010.
2010, yeah.
We have gone through a lot of challenges and we've been able to overcome them.
So when did the rain start beating this relationship with
2024, yeah.
2024.
2024 was the worst year in my forestry relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we'll get into now what you want. But let's begin with how much land does Karura sit on, so that we can see in comparison to what the government is taking for this nursery. Because some people will say, they just want three acres.
No. Even if it's an inch of land that is unjustly used, you need to complain. Anyway, Karura is a very small forest compared to other stations. It's only 1,043 hectares. So it's relatively small. Out of that, we've chucked out 163 acres to Kenya Forest Service headquarters. So the Kenya Forest Service headquarters is domiciled in Karura Forest Station, but that section is already fenced off. We fenced it off so that KFS can remain independent there. And the forest can remain a forest. The forest has, of course, employees. It has a forester and rangers.
Yeah.
We requested the Kenya Forest Service then that we include the habitation of our officers in the KFS headquarters. Therefore, putting them in a community rather than staying inside the forest. For two reasons. One, even for them, it's better to be closer to a shop, to a church, because they have churches, they have a mosque, they have, in the headquarters, than staying inside the forest. And in any case, for conservation purposes, we wanted the forest to remain a forest, and all of us go there to serve the forest and get out in the evening at 6 o'clock. We leave it to the animals and nature and so on. Yeah, and that was agreed in our management plan. And that is what we did. And we started the program of removing those that were not inside KFS to build houses there. From our gate income, we have built 26 units inside the forest. And they had 24 they required 24. They had 24 houses in the forest.
Okay.
So we expected that transition to happen. And this is where the problem has come from. Because we build the apartments...
Where?
In KFS headquarters.
Within this 163
hectares. Yes, we build the apartments there. But instead of giving them to the people we want out of the forest, they were giving them to people, I don't know from where.
Other KFS workers?
So now we are in a situation where the people who are to get out are still not out, and now they've started again building.
To build for more.
So we brought that question, and instead of engaging us, maneno.
They locked you out of revenue.
The story they gave us, which was creating a 2 million tree seedlings for the 15 billion tree program, which we support. If it had come to the JMC, we would have agreed to it, but we would have located the nursery elsewhere.
Okay.
Because we have places to create nurseries, yeah? So the village didn't make sense. And in any case, they were building the nursery, as it was clarified, they are building houses for accommodation of National Youth Service, who would then help in tending the 2 million tree seedlings.
Yeah.
We currently have more than 1.7 million seedlings by KFS, by us going to the port and giving KFS 17 million shillings to produce that.
Those seedlings.
Those seedlings, okay? So if you have 1.7
Take me
and
slowly,
you're not
Prof.
using NYS, why do you need
NYS.
NYS to produce 2 million? So it just didn't make sense to us.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So
Sorry, Prof. Let me just take you back a little bit. The seedlings, the NYS houses that are being built and these seedlings, etc., are they within, again, the KFS?
No. They were
Village
coming into the forest. And that is why we were very, very unhappy, because of two things. One, you now interfere with our long-laid plan to remove habitation of people in the forest, to allow for ecotourism. If a lady like you are walking in the forest, you don't want to meet somebody who doesn't look like they are doing what you're doing. You begin to worry.
Of the forest.
You understand? Yeah. So we want only scouts, rangers, and visitors in the forest. We put all our workers in the Kijiji, in the
village.
Yeah. So, and that is what our effort has been since we began. Now they are. So that didn't augur well. And then you're
Do that
bringing
math
people.
again for that, the fact that you already have 1.7 million seedlings being propagated. Walk me through that math again. And then now, for us to do 2 million seedlings, we require to put up how many NYS workers? Just walk me through that.
I didn't even look at that because it didn't make sense. And it doesn't matter whether it's 100 or 150 or 200 NYS barracks. That didn't come to me as something that we need in Karura. Because those people, imagine, will require toilets, it's just not the right thing to do. And those people are not familiar with the way we do things at Karura. And there will be an impediment to the growth of what it is we were trying to do. In any case, to cut a long story short, we've had a meeting yesterday, and they have accepted that is not necessary.
What's not necessary?
The NYS thing.
Even the new the extra nursery?
No, it's not necessary to bring
house.
NYS. You see, we've produced tree nurseries. And in my life, I've seen tree nursery production throughout almost my life. You don't require that kind of heavy-handedness. In fact, if you went to CFAs in this country, they could produce 500 million tree seedlings in a year. You don't need to even raise a finger. Give them the resources and they'll do it. And, or tell them we will purchase each tree for X amount, and that will be produced. However, we have agreed that they will not do what they had set out to do.
What the CS had said they were going to do.
That doesn't make sense.
We're going into a break. You wanted to ask? No. Because I
just wanted to comment here. I can see Prof out of that yesterday's meeting, he's coming with conciliatory tone here.
Right.
We are at a point where we are starting to see each other.
Let me also see.
But I also want you to explain the period before you seeing each other clearly, so then we see what you're seeing together. Now.
We'll come back and ask you to answer that after the break. Yes. Professor Karanja Njoroge is the board member Friends of Karura Forest Association, talking about Karura's tree nursery. We'll come back and continue the conversation and just get a lot more information. This is obviously something that's important to all of us, so you can also share some questions online and we'll bring them into the discussion. Stay with us. It's coming up to 7:30. Some feedback online. Sir Nixon Bora Mesema, I pray God gives divine protection to Friends of Karura Forest. May false accusers, abductors, and such like ruthless forces never find them. Don't locate them. Amen. Eustace Njiro says, we used to enjoy Karura hangouts due to its naturality, connecting with nature, a place you could walk barefoot. Where did the thought of tarmacking come from? Is the question.
Tarmac, by the way.
Yeah.
Before, as we were going into that break, Prof, you're explaining to us that Karura already has an existing tree nursery,
Yes,
right?
it does.
That has been producing what, 1.7 million
and
tree
this
seedlings.
is Kenya Forest Service. Karura has roughly, because this is what they've told us, 1.7 million trees.
Yeah. What acreage is it on?
It's on an acreage of about 3-4 acres. Yeah.
Okay. So 3-4 acres is...
But it's not all used, because part of it is actually being experimented with some tree.
Just for research purposes as well.
Not research. You cross propagate and do some things to see whether you are achieving the best.
Right, just
tree
experimenting.
Which you should do with a nursery of that.
But the nursery is not a problem. Finding a place to grow 2 million.
We are coming there.
Yes.
This nursery and where it's located, is it the best place for that nursery to be located?
Yes, it's by the river.
one?
They have access to the water, and it's within the KFS headquarters land. So it's absolutely in the right place.
Okay. And the new one that's being proposed?
Oh, the new one, we have proposed that they go to the. There was a nursery that was run by Kefri Muguga. Experimenting again with the plantation trees there. Yeah, they are no longer using it. That's what we are proposing they use.
Okay.
And I think that even the CS, when she came, she agreed that is where the nursery would be. What has been in contention are these people coming into the forest from NYS, where they would be. And that was a contention. Well, the land that was, trees
being
displaced, being felled, and
creating
premises for this. That was the bone of contention.
So walk me through what you know from the ministry.
Yeah.
What is the plan to have how many NYS officers stationed within Karura, on how big a space to now grow and propagate these 2 million seedlings? How have they told you?
They haven't told us, and let me also say, it is not in our interest to know whether it's 200 or 100 or 200. As long as they interfere with the current arrangement, the Friends of Karura Forest will not support that. Yes.
And then before you go into the engagement and what is emerging, because you said you've talked, it doesn't necessarily mean you've agreed on the way forward. I don't know if you've spoken to this. So you're saying as long the project and to kind of propagate the seedlings, that's okay. We don't need NYS to be there. From your view, in terms of trying to achieve this goal for planting the billions of trees that are going there, what is the best direction to take, especially if it's coming to Karura? I think the question I'm trying to ask is, sometimes when I sit back and hear 15 billion trees, which you might argue, yes, Janet, that's fine, we need that in the country.
Yes.
I get nervous about, number one, understanding the process. Number two, having to, the question came, then it went. Having to clear space. It came,
does that sometimes,
came and then it went. I think I was trying to ask about Karura specifically. These seedlings, this goal to grow seedlings, are you saying right now, Janet, with the 1.7 million, with everything that is going to happen with or without NYS, I don't think we need to touch it any further? Or are you saying, no, we can continue to look for space for seedlings because it's important? Are you saying leave it as it is, or are you saying no, we need to do it, but we need to do it a different way?
We are saying the current production has a use already. We know where
the current production has a use,
where KFS, when growing the 1.7 million trees that they are growing right now with our money, and we are growing 500,000 with our money. Yeah,
So
but the
Friends of Karura also is propagating seedlings.
Yes, but our seedlings are all indigenous trees. They are all specific to African montane forest, which Karura is, and it's only meant for Karura.
Right.
All our seedlings end up somewhere in Karura.
Okay.
Where is the nursery?
It is at near the parking lot. If you've come to our place, next to the restaurant near the parking lot, That is where we have those.
You can also buy seedlings from there.
Exactly.
Yes.
Not seedlings, sorry. Seedlings actually.
Seedlings,
And trees
yeah,
to baby trees as well.
Yes.
Okay.
We also encourage people to
so
look
the
at
nurseries there. Okay.
these different trees that are now becoming extinct. This is another problem that we have in Kenya. We have not protected our own native trees the way we should. I mean, I went to Ghana not too long ago, and even in the cocoa belt, they have kept all the seeds and the seedlings and the forests that produce for the forests to create the coastal forest of Ghana with its original trees. You see what I mean? So in Kenya, I think we have a Kenya Forest Service that really cares very little about protection of our native trees. So that when someone comes here, like I hosted the minister from Belgium, from Ireland in the forest, and I told him to plant a tree, and I gave him the tree, the history of the tree.
Right.
The history of the tree called evergreen. In English, it's called Wabugia ugandensis. That's the biological name. It's called the African green heart tree by the Africans, but for us, it's Mudhiga, and Mudhiga means medicine. Mudhiga, you know, in where it comes from. Yes, eh? So how many people understand that in Kenya Forest Service? There are very few. Everybody is a plantation forest manager, and that's a problem.
On that issue of indigenous trees,
Yeah.
again, another thing that was a bone of contention was felling trees that are not indigenous to Karura in the name of planting now indigenous trees. Where are we on that?
Yeah, we are going ahead with it, and we will complete it maybe in 5 or 6 years to come, because we never want to cut more than our customers can tolerate. You know what I mean?
Which is what?
Which is 5 hectares. But
5 hectares is what? 11 acres? What 9 acres?
It's about 5 hectares. You transfer into acres.
Let me look it up.
It's about 15 acres.
So 15 acres every year.
Every year. And what we are trying to do really, and we have done very well, when we started taking care of the forest in 2010, 2009, 2010, our forest cover was 70% exotic. From Australia, the eucalyptus, from England, the pine and the cypress and the Aulcaria. These trees are not helpful to. This is not a forest. When you go into such a forest, you're going into a plantation, like a sugarcane plantation, because these things are not. Even birds don't perch there.
They're not endemic.
So so we wanted to reduce to turn that around. And I'm very pleased to tell you that now the statistics is reverse. We have 67% indigenous. And the rest now, slowly we will eat them up and grow African indigenous trees, particularly Kenyan indigenous trees, so that when someone comes to the forest, they see how Kenya used to look like, how Muthaiga and Runda was, because this forest was large. It was not only domicile white. This is the remnant of what was.
A huge forest. Now, with that, thinking and strategy to make Karura an indigenous forest, then I'd also expect that any tree seed nurseries that are put up in Karura would be of indigenous trees. So then we are only talking about what is done indigenously. I can walk into Karura and I'll learn about indigenous trees. I can buy an indigenous tree seedling to go and plant elsewhere. Is that the plan with the current tree nursery, with the proposed tree nursery?
When we sit with them, because yesterday we were just talking about the concept, which we rejected very badly, maybe very openly, and we were in court. And we are still in court until we receive a letter that says we have agreed A, B, C, D. and then we can withdraw our case. The issue is this. Why is it that we Africans are always shooting ourselves in the foot to do what other people are doing? Even in Indonesia, one of the most rich forestry country, they have kept their indigenous trees very well for a purpose, because you can't find them elsewhere. And you need those kind of trees to showcase you as a people in relationship to your nature. Why is Kenya so difficult to do so? Why do we keep talking about cypress, pine? You know, pines are Europeans. Why?
The
I
names,
mean,
the names
even
tell
it's,
you.
and we can never,
Cyprus and
and we can never outdo that with Tanzania. You know, Tanzania has a lot of forestry. They produce timber. It's a major export for them. We don't have that kind of land. And if the government wanted, they could create it. They could go into the north and try to grow those cypress, or go to the south. They have land in Taita Taveta, you can grow them. But in our native enclaves of our forest ecology, how do you go and cut that and plant pines? It would show we are absolutely
So is it like
foolish.
KFS doesn't appreciate the ecosystem? They don't know, they don't want to know. Like, what's the issue? They're just like,
I would
all
ask,
these things
I would
about-
ask you invite them.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Actually see that, what you're saying, Prof.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know we have to distinguish between the Kenya Forest Service
Yes.
and the Kenya Forestry Research Institute.
Yes.
KEFRI
Yeah.
does a lot of research on indigenous
Yes.
trees,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But also KEFRI feeds into KFS.
Yeah.
And even KFS has many people who have actually studied
In
KEFRI and forestry and
Yes.
all. So
Yes.
it would be...
Kuna mtu kazi yake conservator of forest.
Yes.
Hiyo ndio
Yeah.
kazi
So they
yako.
understand.
They understand the importance of the forest and what the forest tells the story of a people and the area it is at. Maybe the question that, and as you say, we'll ask them is, so why the disconnect? May I just go back into the last time you were here, and the bone of contention then was on the new idea of, or the new order to pay all forest fees into the eCitizen platform.
Yeah.
And your bone of contention then was that when it goes to eCitizen, then it goes into the Kenya Forest Service account, the Friends of Karura will not be able to have access into visibility, rather, into where this money is and what we can do about it. So how has that been? Since, when was it? It was September last year?
August last
It was
year.
August, okay.
It feels so recent.
What has happened is that we went into conversations with the Kenya Forest Service and others, and an agreement was made that the money will still go through eCitizen, rationale being that the forest belongs
It's public.
to the public. So it goes through eCitizen, but it comes back. But when it was coming back, it was going to KFS. Said, no, what is this? But they have revised that. It comes back to our joint account
Okay.
in the same way we were running a joint account before. And that is where we are.
Okay.
We are comfortable with that. We recognize that this is a public asset, and
Needs to be audited.
and it has to be audited. And so
Okay.
it comes into a joint account. We are jointly responsible for the expenditure of that money.
But the issue that brought this up was the Auditor General
Yes.
saying that I don't have access to a private account. I cannot audit money that goes into a private account. I audit public funds in public accounts.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what happens with that now?
Now, this is the most important thing. This income would never have happened, and I can tell you, in fact, Karura would never have happened. This would have been a great housing forever. People had titles. We fought for it. We've saved it. We are co-managing it with KFS. The joint account is there with KFS name and our name. Why? If they can't audit it, a private auditor can account for it, and then we send the audit to them.
Prof, have you addressed that question?
Yeah.
Because, you see, today we have Professor Karanja Njoroge, who grew up in the forest, who is really, really committed to the spirit of Wangari Maathai. Tomorrow we may not have Professor Karanja Njoroge. We want our Auditor General to be able to audit money collected at the gates of Karura and through any other ways of fundraising for Karura.
Right.
This is how it's used.
Then what should happen? Then they should open a window for them to audit joint accounts. Because as far as I'm concerned, when the money goes where we can't reach, we have lost accounting of it. And then either you say, okay, we develop things and give them to the government and walk away.
Is there... It can't be. So this joint account, anyway, because the KFS account is the only one that can be, if it was just the singular KFS account that can be audited by the Auditor General. But then again, a private entity can't be a signatory to a public. So I see the issue, but I don't know. I think it's something that requires a lot of thinking around. Because
and let us,
from an accountability and transparency perspective, that is essentially public. It's a public asset, the forest, yes. It's also the public's money. So it does need to be audited, and not from a private auditor, by the Auditor General. I do, however, hear you, because you are co-managing it, so it's a quagmire. It's a catch-22. It requires someone with, I don't know, more knowledge.
The biggest problem is, and I would want you to understand it, Kenya has 253 or 54 stations. Which one makes money? Which one makes this kind of money?
I don't know.
The minute you start saying that we have no business, we throw it into a KFS account, you've killed the initiatives that any CFA would have to do what we have done.
True.
The joint management strategy
is not
then goes. Which brings me now, let's actually just shed a bit of light onto the Friends of Karura Association. So what's the structure like? Who are the leaders of this? And how do we elect leaders into the Friends of Karura Association?
The CFA, or the Friends of Karura Association, and I speak here on behalf of all CFAs, is a community-led forest activity group. In some places, all it does is to organize themselves to agree with the forestation on the way they collect firewood. That's the least. Some people don't do anything other than that. In other words, extraction. Or it could be an agreement. You can raise seedlings and come and plant during the rainy season in the forest. And it's your labor, it's your tree, but we pay a certain amount as KFS for the seedling. So and they find that may be productive because in some cases the CFAs are moribund. They are doing zero work. Here is a situation where we are not just doing afforestation, we are also doing ecotourism. And ecotourism brings quite a bit of money. And we are the first forest in Kenya, as I know, that has made ecotourism an industry. We have 80,000 people. By the time they came in August last year, we were counting 80,000 people per month. That's quite a hefty amount of money. And that is why we are open for audit. Because we also recognize, as people who are saying we earn zero, which is true. Even as I sit here and I'm doing their work or our work, I'm not given even petrol for my car to come here. For all our board members. The board members are elected by the association. The association has about 870 members from the community around it, plus all the members of Huruma community and Githogoro community. Those ones we don't ask them to pay a fee to be a member. And therefore, they organize a group that represents them in our activities.
Githunguri and where?
Githogoro. And Huruma and Gachie. They are our members. But because of level of poverty, we don't ask them to pay a fee in order they can come and vote or do whatever.
Right.
We only select 2 people to represent them at the board.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 870 members includes all this.
All these people, made from Muthaiga, from Runda, from all those communities surrounding the
How
the
often
forest.
do you hold your elections? For
Every
leadership?
3 years.
Every 3 years.
We held an election last year.
So is there like a term limit?
No, we have not created any term limit, as long as you are re-elected.
Okay. So you can be there in perpetuity as long as you are re-elected.
As long as you are re-elected, you can.
How do
be
you
there.
safeguard this CFA from future interference of any kind? It's an association, it has so many members. Of course, there are those who are more influential than others, who could take influence and start, and you can say you're generating a lot of money and resources and influence
Yes.
in Karura Forest. How do you safeguard it?
We have tried many angles of trying to ensure that the person who sends a nomination form to us is a person who has been with us at least for 3 years, so they know what we do, and B, that they are we have other people who can comment on what sort of people they are before they are accepted as a nominee to come to the board. We had an incident at one time when someone tried to bring in people who were not members. They made them pay the
membership fee.
the day before the election, and then we were swarmed with people who we had never seen. Girls in high heels, and we never met these people in the forest. So we were wondering, what do we do now? Yeah. Then there's some guys who are talking Sheng, and we said, this one. From our community, which community? Now,
Wait,
Are you profiling? Prof?
yeah.
no, I'm not profiling.
High heel wearers and Sheng speakers can't be friends of
No,
Karura.
no. They can be friends of Karura,
Yes.
but in the manner that they walked in,
You can
in
tell.
a meeting, and we had held many meetings before and never seen one of them.
Yeah.
Strangers
Now
to
we
you.
say, these are strangers. And when we raised the alarm and asked the guy, let us just know when you registered as first. All of them had registered the same day, 3 days before. I mean I'm being honest here. You can look at
So
people
it's
and just say,
possible. So it's possible to come and manipulate the membership of this CFA.
it can be. It can be.
It's possible to manipulate the leadership of this CFA with nefarious intentions.
I think there is a possibility.
You need to think.
We just need to be able to think
safeguard.
through those things.
You need to think the safeguard mechanisms. So we don't have a situation like we're having elsewhere currently on leadership tussles of the Friends of Karura Community Forest Association.
One thing we have tried
controls Karura
Latif,
that will accept that we can now start doing some things inside
differently.
Karura.
Yeah.
Yes.
One thing that personally I have a serious problem with myself, not with the organization, is that I have been there from the beginning. It's almost 16 years. I gotta go. And then I look around and I say, okay, who can go to meet Latif? Because I am not able to go tomorrow.
Okay. So
That's a problem.
succession conversations need to
Yes.
begin.
Yeah.
We're at time. That's been Professor Karanja Njoroge, board member, Friends of Karura Forest Association. He's been our guest for the last hour. We are going to be speaking to, I want to say the name of the next guest as I wind up with some feedback
Francis
Yes.
Agar.
on Nupea. We've had conversations.
Engineer.
Yeah?
Engineer.
Engineer Francis. Inside the Siaya nuclear, I was going to say nuclear project. We've had several conversations with Nupea, so it'll be interesting to find out what steps have been taken because they were laying out their plans when they were joining us. But a bit of feedback just as we go into the break. Ken Okonyo says, say hi to Prof. Good job. Tree planting should never replace forest protection. An indigenous forest that has taken decades to regenerate cannot be replaced by seedlings in pots. Yeah. And I think finally, I think the same Ken Okonyo says, clearing natural forest to create a tree nursery is the best environmental contradiction. A forest is not just a place with trees, it's a living ecosystem.
Amen.
Good place to end that as we come up to 2 minutes to 8 a.m. Then we'll come back and have a conversation with Nupea.